Jason enters the courtroom quickly, his mother, Margaret, already seated and watching him approach. The judge raises a hand calling for silence. Jason stands before them, ready to speak. "I sentence my mother," he says boldly. The judge tilts his head, surprised. "She kicked me out," Jason continues. Margaret looks down, shaking her head as the judge turns to her for an explanation. "Is this true, Mrs. Miller?" he asks. Margaret takes a deep breath before answering. "Yes, Your Honor, it is." Jason crosses his arms, clearly displeased, while Margaret begins explaining. "He stayed home all day, playing video games and never looking for a job." The judge leans in, listening carefully. "I asked him to help around the house," Margaret continues, "but he ignored me every time." Jason rolls his eyes, irritated by his mother's words. "He spent my money too," she adds, pointing directly at him. Jason looks away, avoiding her gaze. "Thousands on my credit card," she says, her voice filled with frustration. Jason shrugs, showing little concern as Margaret wipes a tear from her eye. "I had to kick him out," she says, her voice trembling. The judge leans back in their chair, turning their attention to Jason. "Mr. Miller, did you contribute at all? Rent? Bills?" Jason shakes his head, remaining silent. The judge glances at the papers in front of them. "No legal rights, Mr. Miller," he stated firmly. Jason's face tightens with regret as a realization sets in. Margaret sits a bit straighter, watching her son's reaction. "I had no other choice," she says quietly. The judge prepares to make their decision. Jason's eyes widen as the weight of the situation hits him. The judge slams the gavel down. "I rule for Mrs. Miller," they declare. Jason looks defeated, his shoulders slumping as the courtroom begins to empty. Margaret watches him walk out, sadness in her eyes. Jason exits the building with his head down, glancing back once with regret. Margaret wipes away a tear before turning to leave in the opposite direction.